So we've been using this book, this skinny little book called The Lazarus Blueprint, and it's Ancient Secrets of Healing and Inner Power. It's written by Richard and Mary Alice Jaffola. They don't go in and try to teach you quantum physics. They don't try to do anything except uncover spiritual truths for you in a way that is useful and practical, what you can use and do in your daily life when you have a problem. And I can just imagine if we were sitting around the dinner table at my house and all of my grandkids were there, I can imagine hearing one of them say, "You should have seen what one of the other ones put on Facebook. Wait till you see what I put." Can you see the escalation of the problem? And I can imagine that back in the days after Jesus, that there were families sitting around and that there were problems that came up. And it may not have been Facebook. It may have been, well, it wouldn't have been Facebook, but it might have been, "You should have heard what my brother said about my sister. I've got to do something about it." And I can see the wise parent saying, "Just wait a minute. Just wait a minute. Let me tell you this story about Jesus. Look what Jesus did when he had a problem." And they would tell this story of Lazarus. And the child would understand. And they would see that they too could follow those same steps. And so our job is to look at the story and see what happened in the story, whether the story ever happened or not, and tease out for ourselves what you and I can do in a simple, practical, useful way to improve and empower ourselves in our own lives. So we've been going over steps. And the first step was turn away. Because what happens when there's a problem? We focus on it. We brood about it. Some of us automatically engage a gear to say or to do without much thought. Speaking for myself. But Jesus didn't do that. He kept on with what he was doing. He paused, and that's a very good step for us, that when somebody gives us bad news or something happens out here that we see is not what we want to see, is for us to turn away from that. One of the pamphlets that we give it at I think we put it in the visitor bag, and I know we give it out at the new member class, and at least once a year I talk about the golden key by Emmett Fox, is when you have a problem, turn away from the problem and turn toward God. Don't focus on the problem. It's the first step. Don't focus on the problem. And so what was the second step? Roll away the stone. Some of you have been listening. And where is that stone? In your heart, in your mind, in your subconscious. It could be a belief, an attitude, an idea, a thought, a traumatic memory, something that you haven't forgiven. And the only person who can tell you about it is you. And so it's one of those things where you need to go inside to find out what that stone is. And our third step Great expectations. You're next. You get to go next. Great expectations. Have faith. You and I get to have faith all the time. And we have faith in something wonderful. Our song, something wonderful. Or we have faith in that which is not so wonderful. And when we do that, we set up some energies for that not so wonderful to happen. And finally, step 4, Suzette, was give thanks in advance. A powerful tool, giving thanks in advance. So that brings us up to today's lesson. And today, there's the next sentence that we're going to talk about. See, I got rid of lots of pages that way. We're down to page 6. Where's 5? Step 5 is a strong command. He cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Now, I'm stepping out of my morning talk to tell you about something else. I have a little bracelet on, and I saw it in Mindful Magazine, and it buzzes every 90 seconds or every 90 minutes or every 60 minutes, depending on the one you order. And so what I'm doing when it buzzes is I'm using today's lesson because I'm saying, I am joy, I am grateful, I am happy. I live in the light and I am the light. So some of you may not have noticed me doing that because sometimes I have to make that command silently. But if I'm where I can, if it happens and I'm in the car, I say that out loud. Back to our talk. He cried with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come out." Now this is a critical point in the story. Up until this point, where has all the work been done? It's all been done inside. And so now he speaks out. And what kind of voice did he use? Loud. What kind of voice? Loud. Yes. And so what does that loud voice signify? Command. It commands, it signifies certainty, assurance. You know, if you ask, particularly if you ask a young person something and they're not sure, they kind of mumble. And some of us, when we're not sure, what do? We mumble. Maybe, I don't know. He said with a loud voice. He spoke the word. And of course, here in Unity, we're always talking about the power of the word. And we compare it to light. When you turn on a light bulb, where does the light go? Everywhere. But if you have a laser light, where does the laser goes where it's pointed? It's very focused. And it could cut still, or it can be so precise that they use it for surgery. And that's the way it is with our words. We have these thoughts running around in our head. And can you imagine if you had for one day someone that just followed you around and took dictation? And your job was that everything you thought to just say it out loud. It'll be pretty funny. I bet all of us would understand that our words, our power, we have been not very focused with them. But one of the things that happens with our thoughts is they just kind of ping-pong around. And the minute you speak them, they become more laser-like. They become more focused. They begin to have power. And when you speak your words, you begin to believe. All that space between those trillions of cells in your body here. And everything begins to line up along your words. We see that happened here when we said we're going to buy a new building. Our words lined up and had power. Our words have such vibrational energy. You know, if you have a problem and you come to me and I go to pray with you and I will speak in a soft voice, and if you're upset, I will try to be soothing. If a mom has a child that is crying, she'll use a soothing voice. So will a dad. And doesn't that energy help to soothe the person? Have you ever noticed that if people are speaking in a loud voice and all of a sudden you speak in a normal tone, that it lowers the tension? And yet if somebody speaks harsh, don't we feel that? There's a vibrational power to our words. And so there's just a huge lesson in that little bitty phrase. He spoke with a loud voice. If you and I could get just the lesson out of that, he spoke with a loud voice, recognizing the force and the power. His words vibrated the life energy in Lazarus. They had that kind of power. And guess what? Your words and my words have the same power. And I wish I could say that I always use my words appropriately. I wish that I could say that I had great control over all my thoughts. And maybe if I stand up here and talk about it long enough, I'll get it. Because the lesson is for me. If you get something out of it, that's great. But the lesson is for me. Those thoughts I have rolling around, focus them, speak them, and they become my reality. And so every time it buzzes, I am joyful, I am grateful, I am happy, because that's what I determined I wanted to be this year. And he said, Lazarus, come out. Now there's something about saying the name. And our author suggests that you and I make a statement for ourselves. So Beth, you are joyful. Beth, you are grateful. I can just picture this as the parent is telling their child this story and impressing on them how important their words are. Look what Jesus did with his words. Look what he did. And you can do it. The Bible said that Jesus said that whatever he did, we can do. And the way we do it is with our words. So think about what you said yesterday. How many of you who walked at some time yesterday said, "Oh, I hurt"? How many of you said this morning when the alarm clock went off, "I'm tired. I don't want to get up"? What a difference it would make if the alarm clock went off and you said, "Wow, it's a brand new baby day and I can't wait to see what's in store, all the glorious, wonderful day that's in store." So when I make that decision that this year I want to focus on being grateful and being joyful and being happy, which self of me is making that decision? My higher self, right. So it's our higher self that's telling our smaller self, our lower self, our ego self, that part of us that wants to grab onto that which is less than, that part of us that wants to brood, that part of us that wants to worry, that part that wants to hang on to the past. So it's our higher self speaking. And every one of these steps, even this speaking our words, where is it taking effect? Where's the biggest effect being made? It's internal. So what happens is we make all the internal changes, we take all the internal steps, and something external happens. And so we're not doing this book just because it was a book to do. We're doing this book because there are some of you who are facing illnesses. We're doing this because some of you have expressed some issues in the area of prosperity. We're doing this book because there are some of you who have relationship things to deal with. Simple, practical, useful steps that metaphysically, when we interpret the story metaphysically, we can see those steps and we can apply them to our lives. So the lesson is what we do matters. What we say matters. And how many times when you're walking around in your daily world, do you have that little inner thought, "I'm not good enough. I'm stupid. I always make mistakes"? If there is a block that is holding us back, if there is a stone that we need to roll away, if we listen to those little rolling around thoughts, we get to it. And then we can use our command. And we can speak our truth. And we can change our lives. Isn't it great that we can do that? Isn't it exciting? Isn't it exciting that tomorrow can be better than today? Merely by taking control of what we say, how we think, how we focus. I invite you to have a wonderful week, to come back next week fired up, because this week you spoke. And you spoke those positive words. You'll hear it, and so will everybody around you. Thank you.